The essence of the story is that Thomas Jefferson and the Democratic Republicans beat the Federalists of John Adams. During Adams's last couple of months of office, he appointed some judges, and when Jefferson came into office, he didn't want those judges. Back then, the inauguration and change of administration didn't happen until March, so you had this period where the Congress was in session, but the president hadn't changed yet. In those months, the Federalists, who had just lost, realized they were about to become the minority party for the first time ever. Both the Congress and the executive branch would be dominated by the Democratic Republicans. So John Adams and the rest of the Federalists are doing whatever they can to stay in power. So one of the plans was to expand the number of judgeships in the federal judiciary. His goal was to appoint a bunch of judges to carry on his legacy. They passed what is known as the Midnight Judges Act. John Adams is nominating judges and getting them confirmed by the Senate. Into the waning hours of his presidency before Jefferson takes office, John Marshall, who was a Supreme Court Chief Justice, was making all of the appointments but ran out of time. When Jefferson comes into office, he notices many undelivered judicial administrations for Federalist judges, and he orders his Secretary of State, James Madison, to not deliver them. One of these judges was William Marbury. Marbury got some advice from his Attorney General friend. He told him that the Supreme Court should issue something called a writ of mandamus, which is basically a mandate. So Congress said, if need be, Supreme Court, you can mandate for something to happen. So Marbury says, I know, I will ask the Supreme Court for a writ of mandamus to give me the commission as a federal judge. John Marshall, as the Supreme Court Chief Justice, was in charge of making this decision, and even though he wanted to appoint Marbury for being a Federalist, he did not want to jeopardize things with the new administration. As evidence for that belief, the Congress suspends the Supreme Court for a full year. This was a sign to Marshall to make the right decision, not based on his beliefs. Marshall believed that Jefferson refusing to deliver the commissions was illegal, and he believes that since Marbury didn't receive his well-deserved commission, he had the right to sue. He goes back to the Judiciary Act of 1789 and he finds that the writ of mandamus was an expansion of the original jurisdiction. It expanded the power that the court has under the Constitution. He claimed that that part of the judiciary is unconstitutional. He believes that the Supreme Court shouldn't have the power to issue a mandate because that means amending the Constitution. Therefore, Section 13 of the Judiciary Act of 1789 should be voided because it directly conflicts with Article 3 of Section 2 of the United States Constitution. And as a result, he declared a law of Congress unconstitutional, and that is when he established judicial review. The judicial review, which is the court's greatest power. This means that only the Supreme Court can say what the Constitution is. The Supreme Court has the ability to examine laws, and when there is a discrepancy, it has the power to declare that law or part of a law unconstitutional and voided. The Supreme Court today has the power to interpret the Constitution and say what the law is, solely because Marbury versus Madison.